Oh my goodness. Balance changes? Yo, the meta's finally gonna be balanced. Wait a second. Bo buffed. Jesse buffed. Ziggy buffed. Oh, okay. Wendy nerfed, Nori nerfed, Meg nerfed, Griff nerfed, Max nerfed, Bolt nerfed, Brock nerfed. Oh my god. Alright. Rico nerfed. Alright. We're so back. Yo, what is going on, guys? We have got the new Brawl Stars upcoming balance changes coming in the upcoming update. I said upcoming like 3 times there. Don't worry about it. The Brawl Talk is dropping this weekend, I believe. Saturday, August 29th is what that says on my calendar. Not a leak or anything. I think that is supposed to be like to be expected because the update's going to drop, I think, next week, early next week or something like that. So Brawl Talk's going to be this weekend. And with it, of course, comes upcoming balance changes, which they are giving it to us to share with you right now. So it's a little bit early. Apparently, these balance changes will be releasing a few days before the Brawl Stars Challenges tournament, which, if you guys don't know, is happening on September 6th. And so that is in a couple weeks. And if this update is the balance changes are dropping next week, then that weekend is Brawl Challengers. So that's a little bit sus. Kind of feel for all the teams that are gonna have to try to play with a brand new meta and also potentially 6 new buffies. I don't know. Hey, but you know what, guys? I'll be covering all of the best buffies and thoughts on this meta. So stay tuned to hear all of my thoughts of you, whether or not you are an upcoming Brawl Challenges tournament player. Will have all of the most up-to-date knowledge on the best, most underrated picks after this balance changes, and also tell you if I think meta brawls will still be broken or not. So if you enjoy this content, be sure to like and subscribe and use code Bedlam, and let's get into it. So starting off with the first of the buffs, okay, we have got to the old man himself. Some say he's Spenelcy, some say he's literally me. We've got Jae-Young. Now, I have the nano skin. I don't know why I don't have those equipped. Yeah, Jae-Young is actually getting 2 buffs. So for one, his main attack heal is going from, I believe, 1300 to 1500. So right now, his heal attack heals allies for 1300, and so when he's healing allies, he's going to be doing a plus 200 extra healing, which actually is a pretty decent buff. Jae-Young has definitely fallen off in the meta entirely. He was actually considered a better Max because he was basically a Max who can heal, but now that Max has buffies and Jae-Young's been nerfed a bunch, I think in the past, he's had his main attack reload speed and the unload speed and the damage on his gadget, I think, nerfed a bunch, so that kind of like made him a little bit worse. They're not buffing his damage at all, just buffing up his heal stats, so I don't know if that's really going to save him. He is also getting his Crowd Goes Mild star power, the one that increases his movement speed per teammate in range. That's going from 10% to 15% increased movement speed. And this is the star power that most people use anyways. I think the other one, yeah, just increases damage per enemy you hit in like a line. Not as useful, even though I did just say Jae-Young's damage is bad, but like, you know, people don't usually group up in higher play, and the movement speed is so good for Jae-Young for like repositioning around to like heal up his teammates and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see if that actually helps Jae-Young become better. He actually has already been sneaky okay, used rarely in competitive play. I think the extra healing and the extra movement speed might help him stand out a little bit more, but at the same time, especially with global bans after Max has been banned, you know, if you need a speedster, Jae-Young's basically your guy, right? So yeah, he might actually be a little bit better, I think, and maybe worth picking up a little bit more often now compared to before, which in ranked might not be that much, to be honest, because just go Max. Although Max is getting nerfed, but the nerfs, I think, are not enough, in my opinion, for that brawler to make her worse than Jae-Young is in terms of just like providing value, because she just gives so much supercharge. But yeah, Jae-Young buff is okay. We'll see if that does anything. Next brawler, but getting buffed, we've got a buff to B. So B's gadget Rattled Hive is getting its cooldown reduced from 24 to 20 seconds. So the spammy gadget that does damage and goes through walls, that is getting its cooldown reduced. Could be a little bit scary. And her super damage is also going from 200 to 260 per projectile. That very, very minor buff. If you hit someone full on right now with every super projectile, it does 1400 damage. It seems like a minor buff, but technically it's kind of decent. Like right now, the super does 1400 damage if you hit every super projectile. With the buff, it's going to go from 1400 damage with every B hit to 1820 damage. So that is a pretty substantial 420 damage buff to the super with every projectile hitting. Up close, that can be a little bit more helpful with B for like bursting people down. At max range, it's not really going to matter too much, that like 60 damage difference. But, you know, B has kind of not been used a lot as a tank counter. I think other anti-aggro brawlers like Otis and Griff have kind of been outshining her. But now with B getting this, maybe she'll be a little better. Although with Max, like Mina and Stu kind of being in the meta, like B's not really good into those characters. So I don't know how she'll really be, but maybe on draft she'll be a little bit more useful, especially with like the spammier gadget. I think that could help her, like, you know, in some Brawl Ball context or whatever. She'll be a little bit better. Next brawler, we have got Ziggy. He's getting a super charge rate buff by 6%. So right now it takes Ziggy about 6 hits to get super, but that 6th hit is it only fills up like a tiny little sliver of missing supercharge. So the 6% supercharge buff is basically gonna make it so Ziggy can get super in only 5 hits instead of 6 now, which I think was how it was before, and that got nerfed because Ziggy was so broken. But now that's back, and so, you know, even though Ziggy is like a thrower character, I don't know what it is about Ziggy in particular, but he kind of just has the sauce to be playable even in aggro metas. Like he was, I think, super meta like a few months ago when he had just gotten his attack delay buffed. And so now that he has his 5-hit super back, I think he might actually be sneaky crazy again, like more so on those later picks, right? Like basically power creeping Sprout who has been used sometimes, but I don't know, maybe make way for Ziggy again. We'll see, but I think this buff could be very, very big for Ziggy because that, you know, his supercharge is going from 6 to 5 hits, right? That's a pretty substantial buff. So Ziggy might be way better now, especially on the later picks. We'll see how that one goes. Next brawler getting a buff. We've got a buff for Jackie. Her Hardy Hard Hat star power is going from 20% damage reduction to 25% damage reduction. A pretty okay buff. I think most people, when you like want to try to counter aggro brawlers, do go counter crush, but in team fights and like a team-based setting, I think Hardy Hard Hat is pretty underrated right now. Now that it shields 25% just all the time, like flat, straight up 25% health buff, and it also kind of boosts healing by 25% too, technically, because of how damage reduction works with HP. It's good. Will it make her meta? I don't know. I did win with a Jackie once on Gem Grab in Masters 3. I made a short about it. It was apparently a pro player Tufa that was playing with me. I had no idea. But yeah, he went 2-7, so it's not like he really did like great work or anything, but he did hold it down and provide like decent pressure. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Jackie, you might see her in very specific draft context. Like you might see her try it out in like Hot Zone and Brawl Ball and stuff, you know, like having a CC super, having like over like almost 13,000 effective HP, you know, like that's all pretty good stuff. You know, it's just she's a little bit boring to play, but hey, that's not going to stop pros from trying to make the most of a character if they think she's viable, right? So this one I kind of have to see on. I'm not really too sure how strong Jackie's going to be, but I would say this is a decent buff for her. I mean, especially depending on who gets buffies. You know, I think people are saying like Jackie, Carl, and Dynamite could be some of the more deserving of the characters. We'll see how strong Jackie is in this upcoming meta. Yeah, it's not like, I don't think she's going to be broken or anything, is my hunch. Next buff, we have got to Jessie. She is getting a super turret damage increase from 520 per projectile to 600 damage per projectile, which is a very decent buff actually. That is like, I think, a more than a 10% damage buff on her damage, on her super turret damage. So Jessie users rejoice. She got a projectile speed buff a little bit ago that has made her actually pop up a decent amount in NA monthly finals. Specifically only in NA. I don't think any other region really abuses the Jessie like this, but she has been popping up. You know, Bobby and Sans swear by this pick, and low-key I see the vision on it. She seems pretty crazy. She felt really good when I played with her. That sounds weird. When I played her in trophies, I played as her. She was good. And I think now that her turret damage is actually up too, like that sounds like a really good buff to me. I don't know. It's not like her turret is the one that's doing like a ton of damage. It's usually just kind of a conduit for her slow gadget to get value. You know what I mean? And like, you know, for her to just like bounce shots off and heal and just body block shots and be really annoying with. Hey, more damage is more damage. And they've been kind of shying away from buffing Jessie and brawlers like Jackie too, to be honest, for a while, because they're kind of noob stompers, right? But I think now that Jessie packs a little more punch with her super turret, she might be way more lethal. So watch out for this character, bro. She might start popping up in your rank games. I say this is a pretty big buff for Jessie. All right, next buff, we have got a buff to Colette. So Colette's super charge rate is being increased by 10%. Holy Colette buff. Now, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I did think Colette deserved a lot of the nerfs she got back in June. That nerfed her gadget cooldown, that nerfed her so, you know, star power damage reduction, but also that nerfed her super charge rate on her basic attack, making it so that she takes 5 hits to get super instead of 4. She was still strong back then, but then they nerfed her gadget to only half a second of hypnosis, and then after that she then fell off, right? So that happened a month after her initial supercharge nerf, and so ever since that gadget nerf, she's just not really been used. This gadget really kind of rounded her kit out, to be honest, and made her, well, we'll say it is kind of a part of what made her so broken. But then they nerfed it after nerfing the supercharge rate, and so she's just kind of been like really like mediocre. I have used her in a couple of cases, and I've seen her work on heist, and in some draft context against tanks, she's not unplayable. Most people just switch to the heal, plus I'd push it still really good, or mass attack, star power are both decent on her. The hypnosis gadget's not really, I think, playable anymore, but still better than she was before she got buffies, at least. Adrian is going back on the base kit supercharge nerf that they gave to her, so she's gonna go from 5 hits to super back to 4 hits to super, which means that now she's literally, in every single sense, straight up better than she was before buffies. Basically, no base kit nerfs. She has everything buffed. It's just, her hypnosis gadget has been kind of completely neutered. But yeah, I think now Colette might actually be way better. We'll see how she fares. But, supercharge rate, again, kind of similar to Ziggy, 5 hits to 4 is a massive buff. That's like 20% basically, even though it's only buffing by 10%. That 10% is carrying a lot more weight than a normal 10% would. Sometimes it's not about the raw stats, guys. It's about how you use it. And Colette carries her raw stats well. So we'll see how Colette does with this supercharge rate buff. I think without her hypnosis gadget, I don't think she's going to be like the same menace that she was previously, but she still will be pretty lethal with like cycling those supers again. So yeah, I guess Colette mains and Sims rejoice. I really hope Colette's not meta, bro. I don't like playing against Colette. I'm just going to be honest, but maybe with no stun, maybe it'll be more manageable. All right, next buff we have got to Janet. So Janet's main attack right now does 2,000 damage, and in this upcoming balanced patch, it's gonna go to 2,200. A nice little 10% damage buff. Nothing else about that, I think. No further notes. Now, normally damage buffs do coincide with supercharge rate buffs, but Janet's, the way her super charges, I think it's like a perfect 6 hits or whatever. I don't think it's really gonna increase her supercharge rate at all, like functionally. It's really just a damage buff, and that's nice. Janet's been pretty mid for a while. I think Thicko, like, there's like one guy who watches my vids who like spams her a lot, but I don't know. She's all right. She's, yeah, like as a gem grab mid, she's just not really used that much because there are better options, frankly, like Max. Like Crow even is still pretty good, I think. 8-bit, Stoob, those kinds of brawlers. But Janet is another really safe gem grab mid that's just kind of been forgotten because her damage output's not so good. So in like a more aggro meta, she doesn't really hold up as well. Like, she's still hard to kill with her jump away gadget and fly super, but she just doesn't provide as much value as like Stu might or Max might with her, super, with her speeds and stuff, or, a Crow who has like a game-changing hyper and jumps, like it's just not the same. But Janet now, more damage, might be more deadly, especially with damage gear, which I don't know if Janet mains really use. I don't really play Janet that much, but hey, if you're a Janet main, let me know what you think about this buff. You're probably happy no matter what kind of crumbs and scraps you can get from Adrian's sloppy plate. So yeah, it sounds pretty meaty. I would say this is low-key like a medium-sized buff to Janet. So I guess that's pretty good. Next buff, we have got to Maisie. And this one actually seems a little bit crazy. So Maisie's main attack projectile speed is going from 3,000 to 3,300. Now, what does that mean? Because those numbers are pretty arbitrary. Did a little Googling. I found this Reddit post that listed the projectile speed of every attack in the game. It's a little out of date. It was 2 years ago, but that's not really what's important. The important part is that here you can see like kind of a relative list of projectile speeds for every character. Roughly, Jesse's out of date, obviously, because that one got recently buffed, but for the most part, a lot of these are pretty much the same. But Maisie's projectile speed is listed as 3,000, which is, I think, shared with other brawls like Clancy, Gale, and Carl, I think. And then when it gets buffed to 3,300, then it'll be the same projectile speed as Stu and Chester. Now, obviously, Maisie's projectile speed like varies, so it's not like, I don't think it's a consistent 3,000 the whole time. Like, this is what her projectile speed looks like, right? And according to the spreadsheet, Clancy's projectile speed is supposed to be the same as Maisie's, which, I mean, visually doesn't really make a lot of sense. Obviously, Maisie's shot is harder to hit than Clancy's, and same with Gale's. But I think maybe that could also be referring to like the time that it takes for the attack to reach the end of it, maybe, if that makes sense. Like that, then like the relative projectile speeds of all those are the same. I don't know. The point is, though, it's going from that to Chester and Stu's projectile speed, which is much faster. So that, I think, is going to make her much more deadly. Her attack damage has always been lethally high. Like, guys, Maisie can rip you up, bro. She does so much damage, and her reload speed is actually pretty fast, too. It's just, her attack is always really hard to hit, so she's like Brock, and it's just easy to miss shots, especially for, like, a mid-range tank counter, basically. Brock on Heist is already, like, not really good at defending melodies and cases. Like, imagine trying to do that, but, like, it's, like, in mid-range only, like, instead of going for max range, big-ass fat explosion hits, like, that Brock likes to abuse, right? Like, Maisie just, she's just hard to play, let's just put it that way. Yeah, them buffing getting her projectile speed, like this is kind of a Jessie situation all over again, right? I think she's gonna be very scary. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like she could be very scary. Maybe I'm overblowing this. Like Jessie's projectile speed, like she wears that so good. And I feel like Maisie is like literally that projectile speed change could be what makes her broken. I'm not even kidding. I would consider this like a massive buff for Maisie. We'll see how it plays out. I think she could be very, very good though. If there's any Maisie specialists who just like can just tap shots and start cycling those supers, you know, it's like 3 hits to super. Sometimes even missing 1 shot is the difference maker in securing a kill. And now that she can hit those shots more consistently, she's going to be a lethal weapon, I think. So if you're tired of spamming Griff and Otis and you want a tank counter, maybe Maisie's your girl. Speaking of tank counters, we've got another actual buff to a different tank counter. It is Clancy. Clancy's getting a buff again, which is kind of interesting. So it's actually another somewhat of a rework here. Clancy's main attack reload speed is getting just straight up buffed. It's faster now. It's going from 2 seconds to reload on ammo to 1.8, which is really nice. That's like just straight up a 10% buff, I think, in his reload speed. Damn, I actually never realized Clancy took 2 seconds to reload on ammo. That is really slow. And the number of tokens that it takes to reach stage 2 is being reduced from 6 to 5. So that is a pretty massive buff, I think, especially combined with recon. Then that gives him 2 extra tokens, right? It's only going to take him 3 hits to get stage 2 if he has the recon star power. If he doesn't have it, it'll only take 5, but like that's still much better than 6. The counterbalance to that is that Clancy's stage 3 is going to take 24 tokens now instead of 21, which means he has to hit, you know, if he's hitting like the 2 projectiles with his main attack at level 2, he has to hit 1.5 more shots, which is not so bad, especially because like, I think the big roadblock for Clancy is getting level 2. Once he has level 2, it's kind of fine, right? Because then you know, your attack does like a decent amount of damage and you have 2 projectiles, so you get tokens at double the rate. And then once you're level 3, like then Clancy starts to become like an actually really scary and lethal brawler. So I think the fact that they are swapping it around, making it easier to get stage 2 but harder to get stage 3, I think that's fair. Clancy is kind of fallen off again after his little bit of a rework to his attack spread that they did, like the buff, and then, you know, shifting around some of the token values and stuff. And I think they played with his range too, but they might have reverted that completely. Clancy's weird. He got picked like once, I think, in competitive play, but he didn't win, you know, facing like, I think it was like Gray Tank Cheese. Yeah, I don't know. He's a weird brawler, but you know, he is another tank counter like anti-aggro, which I think the meta could use more of, because there are a lot of really scary assassins right now, like Nori, for example, which are kind of going crazy, and you know, Wendy, who's basically a tank support everything. Yeah, maybe this buff is what Clancy needs to become like super scary. I think the nerf to getting stage 3 isn't really gonna make the biggest impact compared to how nice it is to get stage 2 or faster and the reload speed buff. So overall, nice buff to Clancy. I think this is a pretty decent buff. It's kind of like a medium-sized buff. I think he'll actually be solidly better than he was before, and it's going to be very noticeable. So maybe he's actually going to be picked and ranked. I don't know, but we'll find out, I guess, when we test all of these balance changes when the update drops. Next buff. Oh god, we have a buff to probably the most annoying brawler in the game, second only to Tick. We have got Bo. So is getting a main attack damage buff, and this is a substantial one. Right now his arrows do 1280 per hit. They're going to 1400 damage per arrow. Okay, that is pretty fucked, I think. If he hits 3 arrows, he's going to hit you with 360 more damage, I think, per ammo, which is very scary. You know, 4,200 damage per ammo, basically. Did Bo need that buff? I don't know. That, by the way, would have buffed his supercharge rate, because main attack damage does scale supercharge rate, but they subsequently nerfed the supercharge rate by 8% to compensate for the buff to his damage. So, you know, he's not getting his super faster. He's just getting a damage buff, basically, for the most part. And I think Bo is gonna be harder to dive, is basically what this means, right? Like normally Mortis and Kenji are great counters to Bo. They still are probably gonna be pretty good counters, especially against those tanks like who don't have a lot of mobility, or like, you know, any medium range squishy brawler in general. They kind of can just get like one shot by Bo now. It's a little bit scary, bro. I don't like Bo metas. I don't want Bo to be meta. I hate his mines. I think they are fairly counterable if you like know how to do it, but they take good coordination, right? You need teammates who you can rely on to activate the mines when they see him, instead of just leaving them and then expecting the teammates to figure it out. But the teammates didn't see where the mines were placed, so they can't figure it out if they have to try to do a fucking reaction dodge on the Bo mines and then move in a super predictable way, letting the Bo hit you for free or just get stunned. It's awful. Bo is so annoying, and they're buffing him. I don't know how to feel about it. At least he's not going to get super faster. He might actually become a bit of a demon, because oh my god, yeah, in the hyper buff he gives him 4 arrows instead of 3, bro. All right. Maybe Bo will be meta on Heist, low-key, because like he does a lot of damage now. And he actually, with Tripwire, he was considered like a decent check into Melody in the past, on like his release and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that'll be interesting to see if any Brawl challengers want to take that risk, or your randoms in ranked who will probably spam him everywhere. All right, next buff, we have got quite a few left actually. I'm looking at this list, holy fuck. We've got a buff to Eve. So Eve is getting the number of hatchlings for super spawns increased from 3 to 4, which is actually a massive buff. That's like on the level of Rosa super increased from 3 to 4 second duration levels of buff. And her super charge that she gets from super is also being increased by 17%. So she has more hatchlings per super, and her super recharge rate, like she gets from like her super connecting on someone, like the hatchlings poisoning people, that's being increased by almost 20%, which is really big. You know, this increased hatchling spawning thing is like suspicious because it also is exactly what the mythic gear does, right? I don't know if she's losing a mythic gear to get buffies. I genuinely don't know who's getting buffies right now. They didn't tell me. So that's interesting. But if she's not getting buffies, then that means you can also get the mythic gear and this buff at the same time, giving you 5 hatchlings per super, which actually is pretty scary. She might actually be like a much better pet spawner compared to before. Right now, she's really only used on that one knockout map out in the open. So maybe she'll be better in general. Probably not. But a guy can dream, right? I don't know. Eve is a fun brawler. She's just like a little lackluster right now, but maybe she might be way more annoying compared to previously. And so you'll see her used more to like counter snipers. That'd be crazy if they did that. But yeah, pretty big buff for Eve, I will say, all things considered. Next buff, we have got a buff to Buster. So Buster's utility belt heal is being increased from 900 per ally to 1200 per ally, which means that he can get a maximum of 3600 heal for this gadget usage, right? Him and 2 allies, which is way higher than the 2700 that it could have been before. So yeah, that's a pretty decent buff. Still, you'll never probably use it, but it's a nice buff, I guess. And you know, in theory, maybe if you're facing like, no, you're never gonna use it. Sorry, I was thinking like maybe if you're facing 3 brawlers that outrange, like then you would go the heal to just like have a super crazy bunker comp. But even then, like if you're picking Buster, you're probably gonna pick him on maps with grass, so you can try to like sneak up and get a pull. Like that's probably more value anyway. So yeah, probably not gonna use the heal. But that's not the only buff that Buster's getting, because he's also getting a buff to his blockbuster star power, which is also a star power that people don't really use. This star power is going from 15% more damage per ally in his supercharge area to 20% more damage for each ally. Now that does not include himself, so he needs one person standing in the circle with him for him to get that damage buff. But if they are standing with him, he's gonna get a 20% damage buff, which is more than a damage gear. You know, maybe Buster plus Max, or Buster plus Jean, or Buster, Jean, and Max could be like an interesting strategy, right? You have the extra damage boost, and if they're not going any CC stuff, then you don't really need the CC immunity star power, right? Even though it does give you 10% damage reduction while using the shield, but like, you know, compared to having increased damage, like that could actually make some differences for interactions. I don't know how to feel about this buff on Buster. I think Buster's already kind of like, he's a little out of the meta, but he's kind of underrated too at the same time. And they're buffing the build that people don't use on Buster. I don't think the gadget is going to make much of a difference, even though it's a nice gadget now. But I think Blockbuster could be a decent star power to actually think about picking up now, if the enemies don't really have any CC effects for you to worry about, right? That could be interesting. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. You know, if you're going in group up comp, maybe Blockbuster could be good. But when are you really going Buster to find out? I don't know if these buffs are going to warrant picking Buster in particular for any reason. All right, next buff. We've got a buff to Terra. So she's getting, wow, those are a lot of changes. But I think, okay, so she's just getting a change to her star power shades. And by change, I mean buffs. So the Black Portal shade, the one that is from her first star power that chases after people and deals damage, that is getting its health increase from 3,400 to 4,000. And the damage per hit is also going to be increased from 800 to 1,000. So those are pretty decent buffs. She did get a reload speed buff, I think, recently, actually, but it didn't really make her much better in the meta as much as I thought it would. Still used sometimes in ranked, but yeah, you don't really see her too much. Maybe these star power buffs will make her better. Her healing shade star power, that shadow is getting its health increase from 3,000 to 4,000. So same as the Black Portal, actually, which is interesting because before it was less HP. And the heal per take is also being increased from 400 to 600. So that is a 50% boost to the healing that it provides. And the HP was increased more relatively than the Black Portal shadow, the damage dealing shadow. So I feel like the heal star power literally just got so much better. I have no idea why they buffed it this much. Like, Terra might actually straight up be a way better support brawler now. I'm not even kidding. Like, that's crazy. She already has a game-changing hyper and super, like on the level of Jean. Does a good amount of damage. They buffed her reload speed. Has decent range, to be honest. And she has like the utility with her pet spawning gadget, which is really, really strong. It doesn't decay in health like Charlie's does, and it takes 6 seconds to disappear. And now her super healing shade actually does way more healing, so that could be pretty scary. I would consider this minimum a pretty medium to big buff. I think this is actually going to be really good for Terra. Will she be used more just for the healing shade? Maybe? All right, next buff, we've got a buff to the Goon Queen. The K-pop idol brawler. We've got a buff to Melody. So her HP is actually being buffed by 400. It's going to go from 7,600 to 8,000 health. Nice, clean 8,000. That's pretty nice for Melody. She really needs that HP, to be honest. And her Pitch Perfect gadget is getting 2 buffs. That's the one that increases the movement speed and range of her notes. It's getting its cooldown reduced from 14 to 10 seconds. So this gadget is going to be super spammy. Now, by the way, the gadget cooldown only starts after the 5 seconds of its duration effect is over. So you can't like eat into the cooldown. So this gadget is going to have a downtime of about 15 seconds still when you do spam it every time. But still, that's pretty good. And the movement speed buff of the notes themselves is going from 25% faster to 35% faster, which means that this gadget is also going to do more DPS on top of being active more often. Now, is it going to be better than the notes? On Heist, no. I think obviously on Heist you would go Shield, and the health buff is going to make her a lot better on Heist too. I think she's kind of not been the premier damage dealer aggro brawler. That's kind of gone to Kaze and also Nori. But I think when Nori's banned, Melody is considered a decent answer into Kaze because she has the longer range, and so she can kind of like poke at Kaze and kind of keep her back, which is actually a really nice niche for her. And so now that Melody's better, she might actually just straight up be picked more often over Kaze even. But on other maps outside of Heist, right, that's where you might see Pitch Perfect, the range increasing gadget, used a little bit more. You know, there it's going to provide a lot more value now, having a much faster cooldown and also more DPS. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. Maybe Second Best could actually hit pro playing only Melody. Or maybe Saitama might whip this shit out on Hotsun again. I have no idea, but you know, it'll be interesting to see because she is technically better. And she's a pretty fun brawler too once you get the hang of her nose. I think someone made a guide about her on YouTube once. That might be fun to check out. Guide's probably so out of date, bro. All right, next brawler, we have got a buff to Lola. Oh my god, long anticipated. We're getting close to the end of the buffs soon. Holy shit, I've been recording for so long. So Lola's super, the Ego, is gonna now have the same movement speed as Lola. So they're buffing the super's movement speed, which is really, really good. So now, like, as you walk around, you're not gonna get like displaced from Lola slightly. So it's gonna be able to stay in whatever position you put it in, whether you put it on top of yourself or away from you to get that extra damage buff. Also, the super's HP is being increased from 4,400 to 8,000. What the hell? That is... Wait, what? Dude, that seems like a typo. Bro, what the fuck? Oh, okay. But her hypercharge health bonus is being reduced 3,000 to 2,000. Wait, let me see this. Yeah, so normally Lola's Ego has 4,400 health. That's going up to 8,000. Which is actually fucking crazy. That's almost doubling the health of the super. Insane. Honestly, she's already considered good on Heist, by the way. If you guys don't know, Lola is used and good on Heist. She's pretty decent into Finks, who's actually used on Heist as well on Kaboom Canyon in that meta. And she's good on Bridge Too Far as well. She's good into Mag, right? She's good into basically every aggro brawler with the spray projectiles that she can just like shred people. She's like a Colt or 8-bit, but not as locked down as 8-bit. And more damage per ammo than Colt. And also now she has basically a body block clone that has the same health as she does, which is fucking insane. The hypercharge increases the HP of the clone by 800, which is not 3,000 or 2,000. I have no idea what this balance change is talking about. What the fuck? Wait, guys, the hypercharge increases the HP by 800. Patch notes say that the hypercharge super bonus health is being reduced from 3,000 to 2,000. I don't know what that means. Okay, I don't know. But I guess they're taking some of the HP away from the hyper to the normal super? I don't know. I think on net, though, the clone is going to have more HP regardless, which is a really nice buff for Lola. And she's going to be, I think, way better. I actually think this is like a game-changing buff for Lola. This is a massive buff. Lola fans rejoice. She might actually get some usage out of the 8 skins that she has. Why does she have so many high quality skins? Who is the fan of Lola in the Supercell office, bro? All right, next buff, we actually have the Leon. So this is only a buff to the clone projector gadget. Leon, I think, already is kind of a little bit underrated right now. He's not even that bad. He's just not seen as much because I think they nerfed the main thing that was broken about him, which is Lollipop Drop. But Clone Projector is getting buffs, so its attack range is being increased from 5 to 10, which is doubled. And its damage on the Clone Projector clone is also being increased from 200 to 600. It's not going to need to walk up as close to enemies to deal damage, and the damage per attack is also going to be more. Although on my screen that said 172, not 200, so I don't know what the 200 to 600 means, but I guess the damage is going to be more, almost triple whatever it is right now. So that's pretty nice for Leon, and it's the Clone Projector users. Also, the movement speed of the clone is going to be increased to match Leon. So same thing with Lola, the speed of the clone is getting buffed up, which is really, really nice. I actually don't know how to judge this buff because nobody uses Clone Projector in ranked. Everybody uses Lollipop Drop because the value of an invis turret is just so good, especially with the speed boost that it provides. The fact that the Clone Projector now does more damage and the range is doubled might actually make it, like, good. I don't know how to judge that. I'm gonna be honest. That's really interesting. The movement speed being increased to match Leon's, I don't know if that matters as much, but yeah, that range increase could be interesting to play with. It's already like a pretty good body block gadget, right? Like 13-second cooldown, free like 4,000 health. Maybe would Leon be considered a pet spawner now? That you like a weird juju almost. I guess Leon's buff though. Could be fun to play with. Okay, now we're on to the final 3 buffs. This is a long list, but we're almost through it. Dynamite, he's getting his fidget spinner gadget. Damage increased from 2,400 to 2,800. So another buff to fidget spinner. These dynamite sticks are gonna straight up deal as much damage as his basic attack soon. They just keep buffing it. It's good, okay? But man, like, having a stun is just so broken, bro. Like, I don't know. Do we really have to keep buffing fidget spinner? Like, dude, at this point, just rework the gadget to give him, like, a way to jump over walls or something. Like, that would actually be more useful. Like, the jump that leaves the dynamite stick behind him, and maybe they can stun for, like, half a second. Like, that would actually be way more useful, bro. Fidget spinner is just so gimmicky. It's not guaranteed to hit the enemies, right? Like, that's the biggest problem with it. It's probably gonna be good now, I guess. Is it gonna be balanced, though? I don't know. Like, it just seems kind of weird. It's probably gonna be good now, in fact, if not broken against bad players especially, right? Like, if you could just imagine like a dynamite camping behind a wall at like 1,000 trophies or 500 trophies or whatever, and then he just like spams the button every 12 seconds and it deals almost 3,000 damage, like that's gonna be fucked. Like, Dynamite doesn't need this gadget. Like, what he needs is something way to deal with aggro brawlers. That's why he's not picked that much. And like, you know, the skill shot stun I think is basically the only thing Dynamite really has against like a Mortis diving him. So yeah, I don't know, bro. This gadget buff is weird. It feels like they see that the stun is super annoying, but then they're buffing the other gadget to be more annoying. I don't know if that's the answer, bro. Like, what if we just made both gadgets not that annoying, but they made them good for Dynamite? Wouldn't that be healthier? I don't think Dynamite is going to be that much better anyways. Next buff, though, this one could be interesting. So Hank is getting a 600 health buff. He's going to have 11,000 health. That's crazy. Okay, so Hank is totally back. Yeah, like a health buff on Hank, by the way, is better than it seems because Hank super heals him for a percentage of his missing health. So, you know, the more max HP he has, the better the heal is going to be. So then his super just got indirectly buffed. You know, his damage is still pretty decent. His range is still the same. It's Hank, right? Like, he's going to be good, I think. This is going to be a really big buff for Hank. I think Meeple right now, really good in the meta too. Sneaky Hank Meeple synergy might be back, bro. On Knockout, on Brawl Ball, bro, that shit might be lethal again. And Layer Cake too. Ooh, yeah, the Layer Cake Hank Meeple synergy. That is gonna be brutal. Yeah, this is a big buff for Hank. And then final buff to end us off on the biggest and best buff for last, we've got a buff to Shade, guys. Oh my god, what? Isn't Shade meta? Yes. And they're buffing him even more by buffing his first star power, Spooky Speedster. So the movement speed buff on it is getting increased from 15% to 20% when he hits an enemy with the center of his main attack. Just stick with shield. All right, and those are all the buffs. Wow, that took a while. Almost, I think this whole video is gonna be buffs because there's not as many nerfs as buffs, but that's okay because buffs are good. Let's just keep buffing everything and never nerf anything. I don't know what I'm saying. But that's good because nerfs are really all about just hitting the right targets in the right way. Kind of like trying to massage a loved one. But then they're not telling you where the right spot is. They're just kind of grunting in specific spots and you don't know if they're in pain or if that's like a good thing. And so you keep rubbing at it until they say, stop, that hurts. And so then you have to switch to something else to try to figure out what feels good for them, but they're still not willing to cooperate with you. So let's see what kind of massage Adrian has cooked up for us this time with the nerfs. Starting off with Ash, bro. What? Ash is getting nerfed, bro. I just played with Ash today in ranked. He is getting his tank trait supercharge reduced by 15%. Totally fair. You know what? Yeah, Ash is pretty broken right now. He's counterable by like Lumi and Griff, and that's about it. Everyone else can get fucked by Ash, and it's like actually diabolical, bro. He's the menace on Brawl Ball, Gem Grab, Hot Zone. I've even played him in Bounty on like dry season. I shit you not, I used it there and I won. It was crazy. I was facing like a meep and I was like, oh, they have a lot of single shot brawlers, let me go Ash, and then I won. So yeah, Ash is pretty diabolical. He is getting a nerf by 15% on his tank trait supercharge rate. So, you know, you have to probably get like one extra hit, I guess, to get your super now with Ash from the tank trait. A reasonable nerf. He's still probably going to be as strong as before, realistically. Just less overwhelming with that super spam compared to before when you just try to like kill him naturally. Next nerf, this is a big one. Wendy is getting nerfed. Her supercharge rate, okay, from her basic attack is being reduced by 15%. The supercharge from shield damage that she takes, so she has a trait that's basically a tank trait that charges super when her shield gets hit, that is being reduced from 50% to 30%, whatever that means, but I think it does mean it's getting nerfed by like almost half, so that's nice. And her super shield generator health is being reduced from 7,000 to 5,000 base. So that is also being clopped off by like, you know, a solid 1/3 almost. Her super shield generator damage reduction is also being reduced from 75% to 60%. Wow, guys, Wendy has gotten a ton of crazy nerfs before she hits ranked. And you know what? She's probably still going to be really strong. Is she going to be broken, though? Rough eyeballing, I would say no, actually. I would think she'll be really strong, but I don't think she'll be broken. I think she'll be more manageable. The main thing about Wendy that makes her so insufferable is just the fact that you can't kill her because by the time you've taken off her shield health, she's gotten her super. And then when she puts it down, then by the time you've killed her super, she's gotten her shield health back, which when you hit, she gets her super back. And so it's a never-ending cycle of her spamming supers and cycling, which makes her unkillable. But they're nerfing the supercharge rate from taking that shield damage, so she's not going to get super as much from that shield damage. And they're nerfing her base supercharge rate. And when she does put the turret down, the turret has way less health. And it doesn't even shield her for as much compared to before. So ultimately what this means is there's going to be more downtime between her putting her turrets down. And when she does put it down, it's going to get taken out faster, meaning, again, there's going to be more downtime between her having her turrets down. And when the turret is down, it's not going to have as much damage reduction, only 60% compared to 75, which 60% is still a ton, by the way, just to be clear. But, you know, she's going to be more killable than before. And I think that's really good. She's still going to be really strong because that turret is just absolutely game-changing in the amount of value it provides for a whole team, but maybe not as broken. Still, though, she's actually going to scale with HP boosts really well, like Ruff's promotion star power, and also any power cubes in Showdown or levels in Brawl Arena. So I don't know how to feel about that, but hey, at least in trophies, maybe she won't be literally Thanos. All right, next nerf. Oh my god. Amazing. It's a nerf to Nori. Wow, one of the most broken assassins right now that is always banned in ranked. And they're finally nerfing him, kind of. No, they're nerfing him pretty in a decent way. So they're nerfing his gadget, the healing one, from a 12-second cooldown to 18 seconds. Almost 50% more cooldown on this heal gadget, which is really, really good because this gadget low-key had way too high of an impact. He always has fish, so he always had a 3,000 health heal every time he went in. Now it might be more like every other time or every 3 times he goes in, he's gonna have a heal, which is way more manageable. And his health is being nerfed from 7,600 to only 7,000. So that's a 600 health nerf, almost 10%, not quite, like 8% maybe, chopped off of Nori. And his heal gadget is not gonna be up as much. So yeah, really big survivability nerfs to Nori, but they're not changing his damage. So that damage output is still really high, and they're not changing how fast he charges up his rod or anything, or the range on it, so he's still going to be able to get up the map really fast. So yeah, I mean, Nori is still kind of going to be Nori, actually. It's just, he's not going to be Nori nearly as often, and he's gonna have 600 less health. Is he still gonna be broken? Yeah, probably. If anything, he might be more map dependent in terms of his brokenness. You know, there's gonna be some maps where he's not gonna be as broken and can be counterable. Like Shooting Star, I think, is not a great map for him. Most knockout maps are not good maps for him, especially now more than ever with these nerfs. You know, Brawl Ball, like Gem Grab, you know, Hot Zone, he's still probably gonna be broken. I'm not gonna lie. And so that's still a permaban in my opinion, unless something else comes out that's even more broken in this upcoming Brawl Talk with the new buffies and new brawlers. Oh boy, I'm so excited. But I guess now he's at least going to be more manageable every time he dies. And like, there's not going to be any instance of him living on less than 600 health and walking away because he's going to have 600 less health. That's nice. Next nerf, we have got Meg, another insane brawler. She actually recently got a really awesome skin. And now they're going to nerf her. So they're nerfing the toolbox gadget, the one that gives her mech back for free. The cooldown is being increased by 3 seconds. So it's 22 seconds now. It'll be 25 seconds after the nerf. They keep nerfing this gadget, and it's still crazy. I think it still has the bug where it doesn't give her super back entirely. There's like a little sliver that it's missing, which they're not fixing. So I think they're now just going to treat that as a mechanic. Also, the force field star power is getting its shield reduced from 40% to 30%. Yeah, they're seeing the most used build on Meg, the absolutely broken, abusable one, where she just spams infinite supers forever with that gadget. And then like the damage reduction shield to just live forever. They're nerfing the both aspects of that. You know, ultimately, Meg is still gonna be Meg, and I think if anything, if you just go like super rare gear gadget cooldown, that nerf might just be unnoticeable. So Meg is still gonna be strong. Yeah, I mean, what do you expect? Like, she got a crazy skin here. You think they're not gonna let her use it? All right, next nerf though, this one might be a little bit bigger. It's to Griff, another insane brawler right now. His piggy bank gadget was absolutely crazy. Then they nerfed it, but they also buffed up Keep the Change to some absurd number for some reason. Now everybody's spamming Keep the Change, which is so strong, and Griff does so much damage now. And they buffed up Coin Shower too, which means that now everyone's spamming Keep the Change with fucking Coin Shower, and meaning that Griff does so much damage, and he has more area control than before, or low key, because the piggy bank like blocked his own shot, so you couldn't like throw it at people to just zone people and get free damage because it wasn't free. It was, you know, eating your hits. Now people throw Coin Shower for literal free damage and free area control for like 5 or 7 seconds or whatever it is, and the damage output is crazy. Griff is nuts. He's like the best tank counter right now besides like Lumi or something in the game, I would say. But they are nerfing some aspects of this. So Coin Shower, the cooldown is being increased from 15 to 18 seconds, which is nice. You know, that's just going to be a little bit more downtime on that gadget. Still going to be pretty spammable, I would say. And I think it's still going to be super annoying. So that's not really that change, but it's a nice nerf. The super charge from his super, so the cycle rate of his super, is being reduced also by about like 20%, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I'm trying to eyeball that estimation here. Maybe more. It's being nerfed by a lot. So he's not going to be able to cycle his supers nearly as easily off of like a team. I think with hypercharge, maybe that might affect that too. Not totally sure on that, but yeah, interesting choices of nerfs. Coin Shower, I think, definitely deserve a nerf. The cooldown on it makes sense because they did recently just buff up the damage and, you know, it's the radius, and it's like it's getting its chance to shine, I guess. But they didn't nerf Keep the Change at all, which I'm surprised by. I expected them to nerf his damage or something, like a little bit, but nope, they're just going to keep it as is. So Griff is still going to be one of the best tank counters in the game. He still gets a super as fast as before. It's just the super he gets back from a super is a lot less. So maybe he's going to be able to cycle and team wipe less often with hyper. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. But yeah, Griff is still going to be crazy good. Next nerf, we have got a nerf to Max. I talked about this a little bit earlier. She is getting nerfed. It's not enough. They're nerfing 3 things in particular. They're nerfing the hypercharge Buffy supercharge that it gives. So it gives 7% of super per, I think, hit with her main attack to everything around her, including herself. That's getting nerfed from 7% to 6%. So it was 8% on release. That got nerfed from 8 to 7. Now it's being nerfed from 7 to 6. And the 6% is still not going to be nerfed enough. So it's still going to be broken and still going to provide infinite supers for everyone because that's just how Max works. Okay, but do not despair because they're also nerfing both of her gadgets. So the phase shifter gadget is getting its cooldown increased from 15 to 18 seconds. Same thing with sneaky sneakers, actually. The cooldown on this is the same as phase shifter right now, 15 seconds, and that's getting nerfed to 18 seconds as well. So both gadgets are getting the same cooldown nerf. So she's not going to be able to spam them as much. But, you know, even if Max doesn't spam these gadgets, they're really good as like panic buttons too, which she just can get value from. So I think Max is still gonna be really, really good even with these changes because the hyper Buffy is still gonna just absolutely far out supercharge for her whole team. It still is gonna be absolutely insane, and that value alone of the supercharge she provides to her team is just like, it's so strong with the base hypercharge effect itself too, also giving supercharge to her teammates and her super speeds. Like, yeah, Max is still gonna be really, really good. So all of those enable brawlers by Max are also gonna be good too. Like Jean and Max combo, that's still gonna be crazy. Any broken hyper plus Max combo is gonna be crazy. But I guess she'll at least be a little bit more manageable compared to before. So yeah, next nerf. We're getting towards the end here. We've got a nerf to Bolt. So Bolt is getting his acceleration speed reduced by 15%. So the rate at which he builds up speed is being reduced by 15%. He's still going to have the same maximum speed. He's still going to have the same damage and HP and everything else and supercharge and the super damage and whatnot, but it's just that one thing is how fast he gets up to speed is being reduced. So if you lose speed at all with Bolt, it's going to be a lot more punishing. You know, I think skilled Bolts who can just maintain speed are going to be basically unfazed by this, but if you have bad connection issues, or if you are, you know, bad with Bolt and you just keep like stopping speed or hitting a wall or whatever, like that's definitely gonna fuck you way harder, and he's gonna be a lot more punishable too. So it's interesting. I think he's gonna be a little bit more like skillful, but also like high risk, high reward kind of, but also like, you know, that super, by the way, the super increases his acceleration rate, I think. So yeah, like it's actually still gonna be pretty mindless if you can cycle supers, I think, with Bolt. So he's still probably gonna be really broken, but I guess he's gonna be a little bit more punishable until he gets super. All right, next nerf, we have got a nerf to Brock. His hypercharge Buffy damage is being reduced from 60% of original damage to 50% of the main rocket's damage. A pretty okay nerf. Brock is still going to do insane amounts of DPS with that Buffy. It's still going to probably like 3-shot or 2-shot every assassin in the game, so it's still going to be crazy, and on Heist he's still going to shred that shit down with like an entire shield crack gone with one hyper Buffy. So yeah, I think nice nerf, but you know, I think the movement speed on the more rocket star power could be nerfed to like 20% in my opinion, and I think rocket number 4, the time that it takes to get an increased range rocket needs to be like increased to 9 seconds, or the range extension itself needs to be reduced by a little bit, because like the extra range is like so fucking strong. I don't know, I think Brock still needs some more nerfs, but I guess a hyper Buffy damage nerf is nice. He's still gonna be like as good as before though. I don't think that's really gonna make as big of a difference. Next nerf, actually, I mentioned earlier, Lumi is getting a nerf. One of the top 2 tank counters in the game with Griff, and she is getting her main attack recall damage reduced from 1800 to 1600. So, her ball recall is going to hit for less. She's still going to deal like a ton of DPS, but now a single like hit plus recall on one of her balls is only going to deal 2800 instead of 3000. Decent nerf. That actually could be pretty substantial. I think one of the annoying parts of Lumi's kit is that her abilities have so much CC, so her balls slow you for a second, and her super roots you for a second as well, which means you just can't move, and then that's like free hits as well. And like if she puts 2 balls together on you, like a single sequence of that is gonna go from dealing 6000 damage, I guess, with both balls hitting you and then recalling, to only 5600 damage, which, you know, that's like a nice nerf, but it's still like 5600 damage for free plus super damage. That's like a free kill confirm on everyone in the game, right? I think Lumi will still be really good, is what I'm trying to say. So nice nerf, but she's still gonna be really, really strong. Maybe that'll change some interactions. Second to last nerf, we have got a nerf to Rico. People really dogged on the Rico buffies, but little did they know that Bouncy Castle is literally broken, and Robo Retreat is actually secretly obscene and actually also broken. And so Rico has been one of the best brawlers in the game for the past month as people figured out how broken this shit is. They're nerfing Robo Retreat's max speed. It's being reduced from 60% at 10% health to 50% at 10% health, which is a really nice nerf. He's going to be, I guess, a little bit less speedy and just unhittable by everything in the game besides Mortis with Gadget. They're also nerfing the multi-ball launcher gadget, the turret one, which people use to basically body block shots from Piper Curve and whatnot when they're on like 1 HP. That's getting a nerf from 90 seconds to 22 seconds, so the cooldown is being increased by a little bit, which I guess is fair. This gadget is arguably kind of spammy too, to be honest. It's like basically a free spike cactus, right? It just like blocks off a lane for your teammates too. It's really good value. People just kind of hated it a little too hard. The Bouncy Castle gadget, the one that basically took over old multi-ball launchers role and just bring a brain dead damage button, this damage is being reduced from 1960 to 1800, so it's getting 160 damage just chopped off of it. Pretty decent nerf. It still is going to slow on hit, and it's also still going to be able to do a ton of damage. I think the big thing about this nerf is actually going to be the shrapnel. That damage is the same as the original projectile, so that's also going from 1960 to 1800 damage, right? So then you're not going to be able to take 6000 damage from a single gadget from Rico anymore if he just bounces it off the wall on you. Now you're only going to take 5400 damage, which is less than 6000. So that's really good. That's a good nerf. It's still going to slow you on hit, and it's still going to be pretty strong. Even if if 2 projectiles hit you, that's still like, you know, almost 4000 damage, just not quite. It's still going to be like 3600 damage, which is like really scary, but hey, at least it's not 4000. So yeah, that's a good nerf. They're going in the right direction with these nerfs with Rico. and nerfing like Robo Retreat and Bouncy Castle mostly. He's still going to be really good, but it's a nerf is a nerf. And then final nerf here of the update, we have got a nerf to Ruffs. So supercharge rate on Ruffs is being reduced by 20%. Just straight up, they're taking 20% of his supercharge rate of Ruffs. That's pretty big. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty wild. I think they saw Ruffs being spammed a little too much in pro play, and they're like, all right, we gotta kill this Brawler now. That's interesting. You know, Ruffs is like one of those characters that isn't used at all by, I think, casual players. It's only ever used in competitive and like ranked a lot. Mostly I see Ruffs a lot, and it's because this character just has so much in his kit. He has a bouncing attack, so he can almost work like a Rico and can like lane diff a ton of brawlers in the game with it. He has sandbags that have so much HP, you know, take more than a surge hit to break, so it's like he can counter surge. He counters so many of the meta brawlers with it. He has rocket rain that's bugged, that deals way more damage than it should with that like damage increasing star power, so that's like a huge zoning gadget that also has only a 15-second cooldown. He has you know, like I said, a star power that adds more damage to his super and also breaks walls, so he has a wall break super. Or you can go an HP stacking combo to synergize with other characters and just like build up their HP over time on knockout. Especially it can be super lethal where people don't really die that much anyways to reset the HP buffs. And he has a hypercharge that gives other teammates their hypercharges back, so you can have multiple hypercharges from a broken brawler like Chester or Draco or Kenji or Mortis fired off in a game. It's just insane what this Ruffs character can do in terms of just the sheer versatility it provides. Oh, and also the super itself gives a power cube to whoever picks it up, so that's also like a value of Ruffs. He does a lot of damage too because they buffed it a while ago. So overall, Ruffs is crazy. He's just insane, and they're nerfing two parts of that, which is the hypercharge, because he's going to get less of them because he's going to have a slower supercharge rate. And they're also nerfing the power cube to a bunch of people. It's going to take longer to get the power cube, and also nerfing the wall break, so it's going to take longer to get the wall break. Is Ruff still going to be supremely strong? Kind of, yeah. Because, you know, keep in mind, he still has HP stacking, he still has rocket rain, he still has sandbags, he still has a bouncing attack, he still does a lot of damage, and he still has a wall break, even though he'll get it slower. So he still has a lot going for him. But is he gonna be as oppressive, I guess, and just providing infinite value to his teammates with the hypercharging and the power cubing and whatever? Maybe not as much. So when he is picked, he'll be a little bit more manageable, which is nice. And that was the last nerf of this update. That took a while. What do I think? I think they did a pretty good job, honestly. I think they hit most of the bullshit. The only characters that I wished to see on this list that weren't there is basically Edgar and Mortis. I think those characters are a little bit too... I've been playing them a lot as assassins, and I've noticed as I play them, wow, these characters get a lot of free value. Like, it's kind of stupid in my opinion. I think Surge also could have been nerfed more, but that's neither here nor there. Like, I get it that, like, he is kind of nerfed, but, like, he should probably get that gadget Buffy nerfed even more. But those are basically the only characters that I'd want to see nerfed more get nerfed. And, you know, all in all, like, those characters are still somewhat fairly manageable and ranked and everything. Like, they have their counters. So I think for the most part, they hit the right stuff. And I think that's good. And in a lot of cases, they hit it enough. I think the only characters that maybe could be hit more is like Wendy and Nori and Meg and Griff and Max and Bolt and Brock. But, like, I get it, you know, you don't want to kill a character, you know, like if they're new or like if they have buffies, like if you kill it and people invested resources in upgrading it, feels like bullshit. So, like, yeah, I guess that's just it's an evil world we live in. Good characters are still going to be pretty good, but new characters might be better, and that could be fun to play around with. We'll see how the new buffies and the new brawlers land. Oh, and also one more thing really quickly. Here are the Brawl Arena balance changes that are also coming. I'm not going to go over these. I don't really play Brawl Arena that much anymore. If you want to know about Brawl Arena, here you go. These are the changes. And so now that is going to wrap it up for this video. Let me know what you guys think of these balance changes. Was it enough? Was it not enough? Did you see something in here that you really didn't want to get nerfed? Or did you see something in here that you think should have been nerfed? Or did you see something in here that got buffed that you don't want to get buffed? Or did you want to see something in here that got buffed but didn't get buffed? Let me know all of those thoughts in the comments, and I'll read those. Oh, and I guess I should also really quickly say that technically these balance changes are not final. They're pretty close to final, but they're not technically final. So some things might change. If they do change, I will update you guys in the video on Sneak Peek Day with the Brawl Talk. That's going to be it from me. Take care of yourselves. I'll catch you all tomorrow with more Brawl Stars. Peace. Mwah. Bye.